pretty foggy out here. But I just wanted to do this. There's still a jack-o'-lantern out here. I've heard people on YouTube talk about, and it's, again, I don't mean to be going against those in the United Kingdom, but about the revolution. The Revolutionary War. Well, why was it necessary that, they rebelled for the wrong reason? And I often said I would have been on the side of the British during the Revolution. That's probably changed since the last time I've said that. I might have been abstention. Well, no, I probably would have been for the revolution now, which is a wild change from what I said before in other videos. But why? So why did the revolution happen? What was the argument for that? The Declaration of Independence and all that. And I think the reason why people say it wasn't justified or blah 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 was because they're ignorant. Which might have been a place that I was coming. No, it was a switch of agreeing with this or not. 1215 at Runnymede. What happened there with the Magna Carta? The rights of all Englishmen. No taxation without representation. And why that slogan was used again at during the American Revolution, or I don't know if it actually comes from the 13th century, but why that idea was brandished around. It was the rights of all Englishmen. The crown and the people in the colonies viewed themselves as English. There were or at least British subjects of the British crown. And most of them came directly from here and then had kids, and they had kids, and they had kids, but it was under the crown. Now, if the people who levied taxes lived in England, who represented the colonies, and they were the ones who would vote whether to tax, Virginia, Massachusetts, or all the colonies. And the Americans said, wait a minute, you can't levy a tax here if you don't live here. You can't be born and raised in England and be a representative of the colonies, whether, Virginia, Massachusetts, New York. Maine didn't exist at that time. The consent of the governed, that no, you can't do that. And actually, this was going on in the courts in England for a while, and I believe it was actually, ironically enough, or strangely enough, it was Cornwallis, the general that would actually fight against Washington, who was actually arguing on the side of the Americans, saying, no, this is wrong. Because they'd levy a tax, and it would be somebody that was born and raised in England. They said, no, it should be somebody from here. We should be able to vote on it. Our representative should be from here. And if the tax doesn't affect you, if you're not affected by the tax, then you shouldn't be able to get to vote on it. Which is a sound reason. If you have a representative in the government who's voting, they're not from there, they're not of the people, and they're not even affected by the tax, how can they vote? And the people who are being taxed have no say in whether to be taxed. Looking at it as purely reparations from the French and Indian War, that's not what it was. It was actually, if we're English, then the Magna Carta should apply to us. Or if we're subjects of the Crown, and we're British, and we're recognized that, then the Magna Carta should apply to us. Now, this is before the conquest of India and all that kind of stuff. Because after the American Revolution, the British came down on the side of, yeah, exactly. You don't, Magna Carta is only for us here and not anybody who leaves. Because, India and stuff. And then, well, I guess that's not entirely true because you had, yeah, you did have to some degree, some say so, in India, but it wasn't by the actual Indians. It was still by the British in India. All right. That's my little defense of the revolution, or at least the reason why. So when people argue against it, they can know why the revolution happened instead of thinking that was for some other reason. Peace to you.